Next one for you.
Well, the next question would be the starting dose. Now that we know that most of the people here use conventional dose, then the next question would be what is low dose and what is high dose. I think this was never defined in the literature. I used to say that conventional dose is anything between 2 to 4 ampules, and I would go for the dry side and use 2 ampules when it's possible and 3 when you need it. But the question is the starting dose of gonadotropin, meaning the starting dose in all cases, not just in the first cycle, but what would you consider is the right starting dose? And don't tell me again you should individualize with the patient and so on. This is not the question. After individualizing, you have a patient in front of you, you can give her 2 ampules or 3 ampules or 4 ampules. And usually the results will skew a little bit from one to the other. What would be the selected dose according to your views?
That depends on the age of the patient and her ovarian function.
Thank you. And next?
I agree. Why not, huh?
It will be a short question.
Would you say that you should start in most cases that is possible according to the age and according to the ovarian response to starting 2 ampules rather than 3 ampules? Let me take you back a little bit. 20 years ago, there are many in the rooms that are in the field of IVF, more than 20, maybe almost 30 years. 20 years ago, it was the high dose, let's use high dose gonadotropin, at least 3, maybe 4 ampules in order to get better quote-unquote stimulation, which was higher stimulation, more eggs, so you can select and so on. Later on, only 10 years ago, we started to drop the dose, but we never really delineated where to drop. If you can use 2 ampules, you can, for the same token, use 1. If you can use 3, for the same token, you can use 2. So would you prefer the lower dose or the bit higher dose in the same patient, in a specific patient, where you can use 3 or 2? Simon Fischel, would you give us a recommendation? He's over 30 years in the field, so.
No, I just wanted to ask one question.
Please.
I just wanted to ask the one question of the panel that we're now
Simon Fischel,
from England. We're getting a little more scientific over the years, and we have things like AMH and AFC. What I wanted to ask was, given the data that we have in certain parameters, what would you call an acceptable low dose or an unacceptable higher dose? And we have those parameters today to work with. And we all know just talking about a cross-section of patients isn't helpful anymore. We have to use some scientific parameters, and we have some. And I wonder what the panel thought about the parameters and how we use them.
If they will not comment, you will comment on that.
I totally agree with that, actually. And this is why I made the point that it depends on the age and on the ovarian function. The only people we give 2 ampules are young egg donors. I haven't seen a regular infertility patient, except maybe the PCO patient, the young PCO patient, who we have given 2 ampules. Everybody else got more. But the answer is really that it depends on the ovarian function each age group. And that brings me to a favorite topic, which is that I think it's time that we start using our ovarian function parameters like FSH or AMH in an age-specific way. What is normal at age 25 in FSH is not the same that is normal at age 39. And still we use absolute cutoff points in FSH levels. I think that is the error. We published that 2.5 years ago. If you look at age-specific FSH levels, for example, you will be surprised what should be considered abnormal FSH levels at young ages. For example, an FSH of 8 is already abnormal at age 35, 36. So once you start looking at your patients in this kind of way, I think you will be much more accurate in how you dose your stimulation.
Samir, please. Samir Kamama.
I don't share. The more important question for me, not to what high or low dose, the more important to take about total dose for one course. 2,000 unit of FSH, 3,000, 4,000. It's because there is no sense. It's because we demonstrate that the total dose of FSH can affect some interesting gene which express well in the egg or the cumulus cells. My question is, did you consider rather to consider the low or the high doses? It's better to speak about the total dose during one cycle.
But do you have data to show that the total dose will affect the genes or affect the egg quality and so on?
Yes.
This was something that...
When we are over 2,000, this is very, very, the cut about between 2,000 and 2,100 units of FSH. The majority of interesting gene, which express in the egg or in the cumulus or fluated cells, are altered.
But you know, you're totally pulling the carpet under those situations where in the past we used to give chronic low dose, and the dose just accumulated but never reached any baseline level that will push the follicle forward. So there the total dose might be huge, but still the stimulation might be very meager. So you still think it's...
You are absolutely right. But the problem is, just one example, if your estradiol level did not increase, practically what you're doing, you increase your dose, but you forget that your estradiol is blocked by one of gene which regulates this one, you know. So that means there is no sense to increase the dose. It's because the gene, the interesting gene which express regarding, for example, estradiol dose, its efficiency well to block the increasing of your estradiol. So that means really it's better to cancel than that to continue to increase your dose.
Let's try and get the audience position on that, because I cannot get the panelist position, a final one, at least for myself. Would you consider a young patient under 30, good response, would you consider starting on 4 ampules every time that you treat her? If somebody wants to say yes, raise his hand. The answer is probably no. So the same patient under 30 that respond very well to 3 ampules, would you start time and again every cycle 3 ampules? She has 10 eggs every time, 10, 12, 14 eggs. Would you continue all the time 3 ampules? If you say yes, raise your hand. Not so many. So if she responds and has 10 to 13 eggs every time with 3 ampules, would you consider dropping the next cycle to 2 ampules? If you say raise your hand. So I think I got from the audience more consensus than from the panelists. So I'm relieved now, and I think that the way down is easier for a clinician to go down with and taper the dose down is the right way, and this is Vox Populi. So we go to the next.
Okay, the next